Welcome back. Bloom Pathfinders, led by Seodhna Keown, MPH and Integrative Health Coach, is an empowering 8-week workshop that is tailored specifically for young women between the ages of 12 to 15. Now, this program aims to unlock each participant's inner strength and confidence through a combination of movement, social connection, and guided discussion. Focusing on holistic health and wellness, Bloom creates a supportive environment where young women can explore their identities, build resilience, and foster lasting friendships. Now, joining us on the line is Seodhna herself to expand a bit further. Seodhna, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Well, Seodhna, just to start with, perhaps just give us a brief introduction of yourself and your background in terms of what it is that you do.
Sure, thank you. So my background is in a combination of sports science and also public health, specifically looking at health promotion angle of public health. So I've worked in education, I've worked in the nonprofit sector, I've worked for government, and now I'm private. I work for myself. I'm self-employed, running facilitation workshops, youth programming. So I have a diverse working background.
Now, on to what Bloom is offering. Can you describe the main objectives of the Bloom Pathfinders workshop that you're hosting for these young girls?
Yeah, sure. So I think the primary objective, Nina, is to create a safe, nurturing environment for young women, specifically in this time of development. It's a very specific window of development between 12 and 15. Young women are entering puberty, and there's a huge amount of changes in their body, hormonally, emotionally, socially. Relationships begin to shift and change, even romantically. So the objective is to find and create a space for these young women to come together. I provide age-appropriate health education. We look at body awareness, including physiological changes, including menstruation, physical wellness through movement, which you mentioned. And then there's a lot more: media literacy, developing strong personal boundaries, understanding consent. I also try to emphasize a lot around the peer connection, so the importance of social connection for well-being. And then there's a really beautiful element of connection to the natural world. So we do hikes in nature, and then we also move our bodies in really holistic ways, developing a sense of strength and autonomy also in a bodily way as well.
Seodhna, how do movement and social connection play a role in building confidence, amongst your participants?
It's interesting, your previous speaker talking about women journalists working in silos. It struck me that it's a very similar theme here for me in designing this program. When we think about mental health and our overall well-being, when we're in isolation, we can feel all alone in what we're going through. And that's certainly true for young women in this early stage of puberty and development. So the idea is this social connection fosters, one, that sense of connection, that I'm not alone. So if I say in the circle, I'm feeling quite lonely or intimidated at school, or somebody said something that really hurt me, talked about my body in a way that made me uncomfortable, and it's mirrored back to me as a young woman.
Right.
All of a sudden that breaks down this feeling that I'm isolated and alone. So we have this shared experience. And so the science shows, the research shows that when we form these connections and we're going through this developmental stage, not in isolation, but in community, that really helps resilience and also supports mental well-being. Mm-hmm. And then you also ask about the movement component. So I think increasingly we're becoming disconnected from the natural world. So I built in hikes in nature and just being in the natural environment. But then also kids are sitting increasingly on cell phones, on iPads, maybe not moving the bodies the way that we did 30 years ago, when we were in primary school or middle school. So trying to reconnect with the wonder and the strength and the magic of our own bodies. And that when we develop our kind of strong center and our sense of strong bodies, the idea is that will also translate and ripple out into sense of confidence in expressing ourselves, how we feel confident maybe taking up a bit more space in our classrooms or in our families, asserting our opinions as young women.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of connection between the movement component, but also the social connection.
Fantastic.
For sure.
Well, it's an 8-week long program, as I mentioned in the introduction, but what specific skills or tools, will participants gain?
So in terms of the physical and health skills, it's this kind of physical literacy around their own body and body awareness. I would describe it as understanding their own physical development and their physiology. So really becoming empowered with when a woman starts to menstruate, what exactly is happening physiologically, so they feel ready and empowered and prepared, and they don't feel alone, and trying to decrease the kind of stigma and shame around stuff around young women's bodies changing. Sexual health literacy as well. So what is safe touch, unsafe touch, understanding consent and boundaries. And also healthy relationship building is a big skill that we work on a lot in the program. What feels like a good relationship or friendship and what doesn't, and how do we navigate that? Self-advocacy and public speaking. So, I think young women are kind of rewarded for playing small, speaking softly, being palatable to the audience, and we're practicing kind of standing tall, taking up space, projecting our voice, and owning our opinions. And then a lot around digital literacy, critical media analysis, communication strategies, which I think I'm repeating a little bit there. And then also a little bit around mental health and self-regulation. So knowing when to identify I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling down, and how we can develop some coping strategies around that. And then also knowing when to ask for help when the feelings that we have become so overwhelming that we know we need to speak to a healthcare provider, a school counselor, a parent, a trusted adult to get the support that we need, because mental health is affecting, according to the World Health Organization, 1 in 7 adolescents. So we certainly need to begin to equip young people with the skills to know how to navigate this challenging time, but also when to speak up and seek help. 100%. So we try to do a lot of work around that together as well.
Sounds fantastic. Well, Seodhna, for guardians or even the young woman watching this evening who's interested in participating in this, talk to us about the logistics, when it's taking place, when it starts, where it ends, and of course, if they'd like more information concerning the program, how they can reach you.
Thank you so much. So I've just started an 8-week program last week. It happens on Thursday evenings here in Windhoek. It's a 2-hour program every Thursday evening for 8 weeks. So the next cycle, the next round will start again in mid-March. And so the best way to reach me is my first name, Seodhna. I think it might be on your screen, but I'll spell it Seodhna, Keown. You can look me up on Facebook or Instagram, or you can add that first and last name at gmail.com. And reach out about learning more. If you want to have a conversation as a parent, just to tell me a little bit more about what you're looking for. And then we can talk whether this would be a good fit. And I'm also rolling this out for young men as well. So that will start in April, I'm hoping, because there's been a lot of requests to do this for young men going through the stages of adolescence as well.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Seodhna, thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, that was Seodhna Keown speaking to us there. If you'd like to get in contact with her, you can do so via her social media and get all the information that you'd need for either your young girl child or your young boy child. As she mentioned, she's going to have a program catered to young boys that's going to be starting possibly in March. On that note, we've come to the end of this evening's program, but of course, do join us again tomorrow night here on NBC One at 6 p.m. sharp. From myself and the rest of the team, it's good night and thank you so much for watching.